We're here at the Red Bull headquarters in Santa Monica, California for the Battlegrounds Global. 6 players qualified. 2 Terrans and 4 Zergs are going to battle it out for a $9,000 prize pool and a ticket to the Battlegrounds finals in Washington, D.C. Our casters for the first match are going to be Nathanias TV and Rotti. How are you doing, guys?
Thank you very much, Johan. We are doing lovely on this Friday morning over here. Like Johan said, in Santa Monica, the Red Bull Battlegrounds. It's going to be a fun weekend of StarCraft II, 3 days of non-stop action as we already went through all the qualifiers. And like Johan said, 6 players have made it. 6 players got flown out here to Santa Monica. And Nate, we're almost good to go.
That's right. We had a lot of really cool action building up to this Global Challenge Series. The qualifiers were heated. Lots of great players competed. Some crazy storylines popped up in there. But you know what? 6 players coming here has been awesome. But here you guys can see the overview of all the Battlegrounds events that we've had in 2014. We're starting to wrap things up, Kev.
Yep, of course, it's all going to go down to the big final in Washington, D.C. later this year, where the 8 best players throughout the entire Battleground series will compete for the big championship, basically. We invited the champion and the runner-up of last season, that's Sparting and SOS, those 2 Protoss brothers. Earlier this year, we wrapped up the Battlegrounds in North America, which was very similar to what we are going to see this weekend. However, back then we had 6 North Americans, and Scarlet was able to win that one. And just a couple of weeks ago, we also wrapped up the Battlegrounds in Atlanta. That was an open tournament, and Red Bull's very own Bomber won that one. So that's of course good news for Red Bull to see their own boy representing the brand, the big finals in DC later this year. Now we are here, Nate. We wrapped up the qualifiers. We have 6 players, and over the course of the next 3 days, we are going to determine who's going to be our 6th player to qualify for DC, as of course Trap got invited for winning the wildcard qualifier, which was MLG Anaheim.
Yeah, that's right. Lots of cool action coming up, of course, with Detroit and the online qualifiers coming forward. But this weekend is going to be something special. You already mentioned we are going to be bringing back a relatively innovative format that we saw in the Battlegrounds North America with a bit of an interesting twist. Not your standard tournament, to say the least. Each player is going to show up with 3 lives, and each player will also have to issue 1 challenge to another player per day. If you lose your challenge, or if you get challenged and lose, you lose 1 of your lives. Once you lose all 3 of your lives, you are eliminated from the entire tournament. And at the end of each day, $3,000 in prize money is distributed to all players who remain. It's possible to get knocked out in the first day and not make any money at all.
Yep, that is possible, but of course, if all 6 players will make it to day 2, that means that every player gets $500. They can pocket that, and they'll carry that into day number 2. We're going to do the same thing, but there's a good chance that we lose 2 or maybe even 3 players by the end of day 2. So that means if 2 players will get eliminated, $3,000 gets split by the remaining 4 players. So instead of getting $500, you walk away with $750. And at the end of day 3 on Sunday, there will only be 1 player left, so that player will take home the entire prize pool on Sunday, which is $3,000 plus what he already made, which will be at least $4,000, even if nobody gets eliminated in the first 2 days. But knowing how these Battlegrounds unfold, that is very unlikely. Now, we're really excited for this weekend. Hopefully you guys are excited as well, and if you are, of course, we want to encourage all of you to use the hashtag Battlegrounds for all your tweets related to this tournament, or even for your tweets related to grocery shopping, because even the supermarket can turn into a Battlegrounds these days.
That's true, man. Things have been heating up. We love to hear your feedback, and if you're saying, hey, I want to check out a Battlegrounds event live, of course, we still have tickets on sale for Detroit, which is coming up towards the end of this month. You can check tickets out, find information about the venue for hotel bookings at battlegrounds.redbull.com. It's going to be a huge open bracket. Anybody can sign up. It's going to be awesome, Roddy.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and I'm really starting to feel more and more hype for Detroit as well. Everybody's throwing up their own little satellite qualifiers. You did one, Nate. Todd is going to do one. I'll be helping him a little bit. And above all, a lot of people are just stoked. Everyone saw how Atlanta unfolded. Everyone who was there had a great time. Everyone at home was like, man, I should have actually gone to this tournament, because not only would I have a chance to make some money and make a good name for myself, but above all, it just seemed like a lot of fun, and we're going to try to make Detroit even more fun. And I know with a couple of the new things we have in store for Detroit, it is going to be even better than Atlanta, even though Atlanta was super awesome. Now, that's going to be pretty much it for now. We're excited. We're going to get ready for our first series today in just a couple of minutes, but not before. We're going to throw it over to our very own James and Letot, who are standing in the green room. This is something new that we introduced to the Battlegrounds Global, as of course there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and we want to keep you guys up to date about who's spending time with who, and if there are any conspiracy theories, if there's any alliances being formed. So James and Johan, why don't you guys go ahead and tell us what's been happening so far behind the scenes of the Battlegrounds.
Thanks very much, guys. I'm here with James, the translator. You're not new to this. You've been to Battlegrounds before. You've had to do some translating, but this is going to be a different format here with these Korean players. They're going to be chilling here during the games. Can you tell us a little bit about your role here?
First of all, I am James the translator, as you guys all know, and also I'm going to be helping out with the organizers on managing, dealing with players. If they have any issues, I go to them, solve it out. This is going to be very different from Atlanta, because Atlanta I pretty much had one player to translate for, and I had fun casting. So this is going to be different and fun.
So how much gossip are you going to be translating for us or teaching us about?
I'm going to try
all of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I hear anything, I will tell you guys all about it.
Have you already heard things? Like, don't spoil everything. If you go to big scoops, save it for later. Just give us a little, maybe teaser of what you've
wish
heard.
I had something to give you guys a little glimpse of what's been happening behind the scene. But these guys been they're not really all that close yet.
Okay.
A lot of them met on the airplane. So I've been trying to get some juice out, when we were separated from the pack and stuff, but nothing's been said yet, unfortunately. So I'm excited to hear what they're gonna say in their interviews and stuff.
Actually, Solar moved next to Impact earlier, and when I asked him why did he move PC, then he said he wanted to move there, and I was like, yeah, but what if you have to play against him? He's like, we're probably not gonna play. I was like, what? And he told me, we are rooming together, so it's unlikely that we'll play. What's up with that? The players that are rooming together won't pick each other? Like, what are they afraid of?
So what happened was when we went to the concierge or the front lobby yesterday, we found out that two players were sharing the rooms together, and we were solving it out on the front desk, and they're like, okay, well, we're gonna put two Terrans in one room, or we're gonna put two youngest players in one room, and then we're gonna put the rest of them in the other room. So that's what happened. So Solar and Impact became roommates, and I don't know what happened last night because they didn't come with us for dinner. So, and apparently there's some kind of alliance that happened. Who knows what happened last night?
They went to the beach and had some marshmallows together with the fire.
Maybe.
Like we're not gonna pick each other. We are BFF forever.
Because before Solar came here, his expectation was Santa Monica is near the Pacific Ocean. Man, I'm gonna go to the beach. All day yesterday, all he was saying was, "Where's the beach? Where's the beach? Where's the beach?"
Okay. All right. Thanks, James. We'll be back later on with the players to talk to, and back to you, casters.
Thank you very much, James, and thank you very much, Johan. I can't wait to see what's happening behind the scenes. That was one of the most fun things at Battlegrounds North America, which unfortunately back then we didn't really display and we didn't really translate properly to the screen. But this time we're going to do our other best to make sure that you guys stay in the loop of all the alliances that are being formed, because that is something that's pretty damn important. I was already talking a little bit about with the players before. I was like, hey, who's your best buddy here? Who you hang out with the most? They didn't really let go of much, Nate.
No, we have players that participate in a very different set of leagues, especially you consider you have some players coming in playing in Pro League, but they don't really face off, or I would say even compete, talk to, I would imagine, too much to players like Polt, like MMA, and we have kind of the hybrid Dongray Gu played outside of the Pro League scene for a very long time, one of the early StarCraft II players, and then he spent a lot of time with those Kespa guys. So I'm very curious to know what the network actually is for this event as far as planning to snipe perhaps early players, because if you can take somebody out early on, if you take someone out on the first day, everybody else makes a lot more money.
Yep, now of course, what's very important in this format is the order of players when they will start playing. Now the way that it worked is we had 3 qualifiers. Polt won the first one, Solar won the second one, and Hydra won the third one. So in that order, players could pick which number they wanted to play of today. Everybody has to play at least one series a day. But if Polt wanted, he could have started last, he could have started first. Instead, what we do know is that Polt decided to play as the third player of the day. We can take a look at that that bracket, because that bracket is very important to give you guys an idea of how today is going to play out. Here we are. So MMA is going to be our first player of the day. MMA had no saying in that, as he was the runner-up, actually even a replacement in the final qualifier. So he had last choice, and everybody else didn't want to start first. So MMA is going to be first. Dongray Gu is going to be second. Polt could have picked to be number 6, but he started as number 3, and we can talk about that a little more after this. Hydra is going to be our 4th player of the day. Impact is going to be our 5th, and Solar will have the final challenge of the day.
Yeah, pretty intense setup to be put in, especially when you consider that when we look at what happened in the Battlegrounds North America, the player who had the first pick lost their first life in that match, and things kind of snowballed in a kind of a bad way for him after that.
Yes, he became a target. Of course, we were referring to Puck, who decided to start off as first, as back then he even had a saying in that. He's like, no, I want to play first. He ended up losing his first series of the day, and for the rest of the day, he remained a target, and he was eventually eliminated in the last series. Now, I asked Polt, because Polt had the choice. Polt could have started as 6th and kind of thought that what he would do, or maybe as 5th, and he decided to go as 3rd. So I asked him, Polt, like, why number 3? He's like, well, in that case, I guarantee myself with at least one pick. He's like, because if I would have been the 5th or 6th player of the day, if the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd player of the day all pick me, then I will never have to pick myself, and that would be unfortunate. I was like, well, good point. Someone who had no saying in the order, however, is MMA. He is going to be our 1st player of the day, and he's standing on our left with Translator James. So James, go ahead and talk with MMA, and how does he feel about being 1st?
Hello guys, James here. I'm with the replacement of replacement, MMA. 자, 이제 백업으로 오신 문성원 선수 함께하겠습니다. 안녕하십니까?
안녕하세요, 문성원입니다.
자, 이제 백업으로 오시면서 마지막으로 이제 시드 자격이 주어지면서 결국 첫 번째 게임을 하시게 되셨는데 이제 뭐 어떤지 소감 말씀해 주시죠. So MMA, you ended up replacing a CJ Enter's Trust, CJ Enter's Hero to get here. So you ended up getting the 6th seed. Hence, no say in the starting order. So how do you feel about that?
일단 백업으로 와서 시드가 없어서 선수들이 다 뒤로 가는 바람에 제가 첫 번째 픽을 하게 됐어요. 그래서 첫 번째 픽이 좀 마음에 부담이 많이 되는데 첫 번째 선수에게 좀 아무 감정이 없다는 걸, 그리고 좀 참 마지막까지 고르기 힘들었다는 거 알아줬으면 좋겠습니다.
So coming as the replacement of the replacement, being the 6th seed, I'm a bit sad that I didn't get a say in the starting order at all. But I just want to say it's very pressuring to go first, to kick off the Red Bull Battlegrounds Global, and no hard feelings for my first opponent. 그리고 문성원 선수 제가 이제 전적이랑 이런 거를 비교하다 보니까 좀 신기한 거를 찾았는데 I was looking at MMA statistics last night and I found something very interesting. 지금 현재 최근 10경기 전적이 6승 4패. So the most recent 10 games he's at 6 wins and 4 losses. And most recent TVT he's at 6 wins 4 losses. 태태전도 6승 4패. 태저전도 6승 4패. TVZ is also 6 and 4. 그리고 좀 억지를 좀 더 더해보자면은 프로 게이머 생활하신 지 6년, 스타트 하신 지 4년. Being a pro gamer for 6 years and 4 years in StarCraft II players, do numbers 6 and 4 mean anything to you? Obviously, you're not doing this on purpose. 일부러 하시는 건 아닐 테고 6과 4에 뭐 의미를 딱히 두고 계신 게 있나요?
의미 같은 건 없는데요. 그 6, 4를 오늘은 좀 7로 만들고 싶네요, 앞자리를.
There's no meaning. It's funny that coincidentally everything's 6 and 4. I'm gonna see if I can change one of the numbers to 7 today. At the minimum, right? 최소한이죠, 최소한.
네, 그렇죠.
그러면은 이제 첫 번째 픽으로 이제 살짝 먼저 힌트를 좀 주시죠, 좀 티저로. Give us a little hint, a little teaser on. Give me a description of the player you're going to be picking.
안경을 썼어요.
So he wears glasses. Let's think about who wears glasses. Looking around. Oh, there's only one person that is not wearing glasses, and that's Hydra. And can you give us a little more?
스마트합니다.
He's very smart. So I guess that narrows down a lot. All right, so let's be done with the hold up and announce who you're gonna play. 이제 그만 시간 끌고 이제 선수 이제 픽해 주시죠.
지금 같은 방을 쓰고 있는 폴트 선수를 고르겠습니다. 정말 마지막까지 고르기 힘들었는데 정말 재밌는 경기 했으면 좋겠어요.
It was a hard decision. I thought about it all day and all night yesterday, and even before coming, and I picked my roommate, Polt. Polt, come on up. 최소 선수 안녕하세요.
Hello.
I'll do this one in English because I mean obviously there's no translation needed for Polt anyway. So you're picked as first. How does that make you feel?
Well, it's very predictable, so I'm fine.
Predictable. How would you say it's predictable? He's at 6 wins and 4 losses the recent 10. It's not like he's dominating the TVTs right now.
I don't think about that. Just well, I'm prepared for every match, for every player, so I don't really care about that.
So obviously Polt is very, very prepared for all scenarios. I mean, coming into this kind of format, it's really necessary that you prep for all the players and the scenarios. Terran the Terran. There's no Terran Alliance? What's going on?
이거 테란 두 명이서 힘을 합쳐야 되는데 저도 참 어떻게 할지 모르겠어요.
I know that being only 2 Terrans in this format, Terrans do need alliance, but I really can't say any farther. So I guess we're last things to say to the opponents.
Good luck.
Good luck it is.
Good luck too.
All right, before we start the first series, we need to go to map vetoes. So I'm gonna first throw it off to the casters. Back to you guys.
No MMA, no. Do you really want to leave us with 4 Zergs eventually? Is it going to be nothing but roaches for the last 2 days, Nate?
You know what? My Terran heart, as much as I love a good TVT, seeing one of these guys, one of them has to lose a life now. And we saw what happened at Battlegrounds North America. It's not just a matter of who's going to beat who in this TVT. It's who's about to get ganged up on by everybody else after this match.
Now, this part of the show is so much more fun for us than it was the last time. Now, for you guys, it may not really make a difference because you guys didn't really know, but last time it was kind of obvious for us who was going to get picked because that player had to get his PC set up. This time, all stations are qualified to play on at any given moment, so that means we really did not know. And I did speak with Paul a little bit before, and I was like, so Paul, like, are you expecting someone to pick you? Do you already know who you're going to pick? He's like, well, I'm not 100% sure. He's like, but I do not think that MMA is going to pick me because why would you want to pick each other as the only 2 Terrans? That really makes no sense. So the fact that he says here that it was predictable is not really correct because he didn't really see it coming unless he lied to me.
He was mind gaming us, RotterdaM.
No, I don't think he was mind gaming us. And I agree. I really did not expect MMA to just open up like that and pick the only other non-Zerg in the tournament.
Yeah, it's really tricky because you look at the recent results and pretty much all of these Zergs are incredibly scary. You've got players like Solar and Impact who've made it to tournament finals over the course of the last year. And, Polt's a champion in his own right who's had great success in StarCraft II, making deep runs in tournaments like WCS, of course, earlier this year in Intel Extreme Masters Cologne. But I have to agree, I'm a little bit surprised by the decision out of MMA because Terran versus Terran can be certainly a good matchup for a player who doesn't want to have to rely on things like splitting versus Banelings, but it's just, you're going to have to play a lot of Terran versus Zerg no matter what. Just wants to delay it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, now going over the history, these 2 guys have been around since pretty much the start of StarCraft II. Maybe it took a couple of months for one of the guys to make a big splash on the scene, but their results playing against each other go all the way back to 2011. So going over all statistics and saying like, oh, throughout the history, Polt has defeated MMA a few more times than MMA has defeated Polt is really kind of irrelevant because you're looking at a time span of 4 years now. It's StarCraft II times, that is centuries, and how good you were in 2012, it really has no effect at all how today games are going to play out. Different metas being used, different openings are being used, and above all, it's impossible to stay in peak condition for 4 years straight. They haven't actually played against each other a single time in 2014, and if you wanted to go back to previous series, that's pretty much how far I ever want to go back since the start of the year, because referring a series that has happened last year, that's already not that relevant. Talking about 2012, really, who cares? In 2011, that's almost a different game. Like you're looking at a different game, playing Wings of Liberty. So far this year, they have not played against each other yet. They also, of course, compete sort of in different regions. So despite both Polt and MMA still having a prominent role in the scene, Polt is competing a lot in the North American region, MMA is competing in WCS Europe, spends some time in Europe or goes to Korea, while Polt is pretty much exclusive North America. So that's one of the reasons why, despite both being them so active, both of them still being so active, they don't really go up against each other a lot. Either way, there's not really a whole lot that we can refer to, but of course, I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I kind of like that when you look at where both of these players are coming from. You have Polt, who's been the champion of his region several times in America. MMA could be said the same for Europe as well, competing, of course, in WCS Europe. And it's just not a matchup that we see a lot. And you're right, it hasn't occurred this year. Both of these players have some pretty interesting, I'd say, overall results in Terran versus Terran, especially when I look at Polt. Most recently, the results that come to mind, I believe he's dropped series to, I would say, an opponent he's favored over, Major, in not only a qualifier for
Intel Extreme Masters Toronto.
Yeah, for Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. I also believe he dropped a series again to him in the Destiny 1 tournament as well.
Okay.
So he's his TVT. I'm actually really interested to see like if he can stand up to MMA, or I guess I haven't really seen too much TVT from MMA though.
You're making a good point.
Tricky.
You're making a good point there, Nate. Do you think that MMA has picked Polt because perhaps he was watching that Intel Extreme Masters qualify the other day and he's like, hey, Polt, I like you and all, we're Terran brothers, but if you go 0-3 against Major, and if I look at the remaining Zergs in this tournament, you'd probably be the guy that I square off best against in my first pick, and this will be the only time I pick you, pinky promise, but it could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that too is if MMA can take the first blood off of Polt and he can draw all the attention of the other players onto Polt, then MMA doesn't have to worry about playing against the Zergs, and he can at least make it to the second day. So there's a lot of more implications than just one life off of this best of 3 that we're about to see. And I think that's one of the cool parts about the tournament format, and one of the cooler parts about having two players go up against each other that don't have enough of experience against each other to really have something planned out specifically for this matchup. But you make a great point. I'd be really surprised if you go into a tournament, the only other Terran is Polt, and you don't watch the 5 maps he dropped in a row to a player like Major.
You're making an excellent point. We got invited to the game lobby. Game number 1 is going to be played on King Sejong Station. I think looking at our current map pool, this is a map that you guys will see a lot in the upcoming days. It's not a map that's really favored one way or the other. Polt is almost ready, I believe. MMA is pretty much ready. MMA tells us he's ready. You make one final point that I would like to talk on a little more. Of course, they're both WCS champions. Like you said, MMA won Season 3 Europe last year, the runner-up of Season 1, I believe, as well. Polt, of course, won 2 WCS seasons last year in America, so that already makes it a little extra special for us. But the final point, Nate, that you were just talking on, becoming a target. Now, Polt has already picked himself as the 3rd player of the day. So if he loses the first series of the day against MMA, the guy who goes second, which I believe was Dongre-gu. So if Dongre-gu would pick Polt as well, and Polt would go 0-2, then he's forced to play as 3rd player of the day because he wanted that, and that could be tournament live on the line already. Now that's of course worst case scenario. Best case scenario, he wins the first series, doesn't worry, then wins his pick, and he goes into day 2 very healthy.
I mean, when you look at it like that, Polt could very easily, if he were to defeat MMA, and then Dongre-gu would have picked MMA, then Polt could actually go for the revenge pick and eliminate MMA from the tournament altogether. There's so many potential ways that this could play out. It's kind of interesting, and then you remember that these two guys are rooming together for the weekend. He's gonna be like, "You knocked me out on the first day."
Yeah, that's
like, well, you picked me to start, so you asked for it.
You know, with this format, of course, we're looking for a little bit of extra fun as well. We're trying to find ways to make it a little extra spicy and trying to find the stories that are either there or not there or just in our mind. But come on, picking your roommate as the first series of the day, and he's the only Terran player as well in the tournament. That's one way to kick off the Battlegrounds Global Challenge Series as we are loaded into our very first game.